Today I want to have one of the last milestones or hurdles complete on the UglyTruck that's standing in our way to get the thing fired up, specifically the fuel system. We are so close to the finish line on this summertime rebuild that probably should have taken place over the winter so we could have enjoyed the truck this summer, but this is kind of our status update. We got most of the powder coated parts back, and the engine bay is looking pretty dang good. I don't have the water pump on yet. I am painting that. Cooling fan's not in, but we're getting there. Valve covers obviously haven't been installed yet. We're waiting on some special machine work to be done to our little hold down guys because, well, you know, OCD or whatever. But anyway, fuel system today. That's the main objective to get accomplished. We're gonna start with the rail here. Short version is this regulator and return line, which are 3/8 feed and 5/16 return, just will not flow enough fuel to maintain correct fuel pressure at idle. We've got a 525 primary pump and a 450 liter per hour secondary pump. We maintain fuel pressure at wide open throttle, but at idle, when that one 525 is running, we just physically don't have enough capacity to return all that fuel back to the tank. So we're upgrading. We're going to be doing a -10 to and from the tank to the regulator, and then we're going to split off the regulator and do 2 -8s onto the rail. So obviously you can't attach a -8 AN to this stuff, so that means we're going to be getting the TIG welder out today. A couple of materials that we just received. These are from Racetronics, just some 8 AN weld bungs. And then I found this, this is 1/2 inch inside diameter, just stainless steel tube, so we can weld a little, and that nice part about it has that little register on there. So I'll do it off camera because I don't have enough hands, but basically sits nicely on the end there. So we're gonna weld that up and then trim it down to maybe 1 inch or so to basically replace that section there. Do the same on there, and then really that's the only spot that intersects with the rail, so we'll just chop off the rest of that garbage that is no longer useful. We already removed all the stock fuel lines from the truck back when the powertrain was out. So I'm gonna get to welding, but first, just take a look at it. Just take a look. All right, I actually have 2 done. The second one I am much happier with. First one still will work, but I got a bunch of these ends, so I'm actually gonna redo it. Kind of looks a little bit sloppy, so let's try one more time. All right, first attempt, kind of sloppy. Second attempt, still not perfect, but way better, at least as far as my skills are concerned. Oh, I thought that unscrewed this. It's like crimped together. Well, we have officially reached that point where there's no return. All right, guys, it has been one heck of a week. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I have not had a whole lot of time to work on the UglyTruck project at all, but we are at a pretty good point, and I was a little bit nervous about welding the fuel rails together just because I wasn't sure what the material would do, but we back purged it, we welded it, and we have both fuel rails modified. We have a -8 feed on each, and we actually just got a lot of parts in from Summit. I'll try to do this without showing you my address because, well, can't do that. But anyway, check this guy out. I thought this was probably the coolest part of the bunch. We got ourselves the big dog regulator. And I'm gonna have to, I didn't realize how large this was when I ordered it, so come on out of there. Boom, okay, there it is. Yeah, well here's a soda can, for example. I gotta find a place to mount this, but we've got -10 ORB ports on this bad boy, boost referenced. It's probably gonna sit maybe somewhere in here. So -10 feed in return lines from the tank, then we'll Y out of that guy, and we'll send a -8 to each fuel rail, which we can now do thanks to a little bit of TIG welding. So that's most of the fuel system. Also in that box, we have hopefully all the lines and fittings and stuff that we need. On the fuel tank side of things, I installed last year a billet pump hanger hat thing with, I think, -10 or even -12 ports on it. So we have 2 pumps in the tank that'll flow a ton of fuel, a 525 primary and a 450 secondary. But anyhow, we got the fuel system covered now. I do want to move on to the valve covers just because that's like the last part of the engine that we haven't put on. You can see this one's just sitting on top, but it still has like the masking paper from when I painted the engine just to keep dust out. But we did get this stuff back from Powder Coat. We have these spacers on here because we have the taller valve train. 8.1 valve covers are different from traditional big block Chevy, not by much, but just enough where it takes a little extra step to put the big block valve covers on. Anyway, I like those valve covers, that's what we're running, but I had to modify the bolts because they have a little special, call it a crush stopper type washer thing. Anyway, long story short, I had the machine shop here in town modify the original bolts for me basically by cutting the threads off, which used to sit there, cutting the hex off, and then drilling perfectly down the middle in the lathe. Which, by the way, guys, I really, really want to get a lathe because there's so many more projects you can do. But not to get sidetracked. So this is how we're going to hold our valve covers down now. We're going to have, and I got to clean these up so I won't put it in for good, but this guy installs in the little grommet gasket thingy right there in the valve cover that'll push down in. And then we have the new longer M6 bolt that'll go through our modified thingy and then, you know, pass right down through there. So that's what's going to hold the valve cover down in a factory-like way. Could I have done this just by putting a bolt and a washer through there? Yes, but that doesn't make sense to me. I want to do it the right way, which you could argue that might not be the rightest way, but to me, it makes my brain happy, so I did it. Anyway, let's get to it. All right, spacer and valve cover going on for good. I hope that clears the alternator. I didn't account for that. All right, unfortunately this week wasn't as productive as I had hoped starting out, but that's the way it goes sometimes. You run a shop, other stuff just takes priority. So this week didn't have a whole lot of work time for the fun stuff, but that's all right. We made some progress, and a lot of the major, or I should say the last of the fabrication projects are done. We have the fuel rails all taken care of, which, oh, by the way, I did put my MSD coils back on, and I'm really digging the black with just that little bitty pop of red. I really liking how this engine bay has turned out. But anyway, what I was talking about earlier, the last of the fabrication is done. We have the -8 feed on both of these rails. And just to kind of compare, before, this was the feed line, 3/8, and now you're going to a -8, which is 1/2 inch. And the return line going from 5/16 to a -10, which is 5/8. So got these painted up. We have the valve covers and spacers installed. Thankfully on this side, I was a little bit worried, but thankfully the alternator clears just fine. I mean, it's tight, but it clears, didn't have to do any grinding, even with the spacer. I've made sure I've got room for my valve cover breather lines. We're gonna get all that plumbed at some point. So really the last things that we have to do to get this truck started, I'll go through the list real quick. 1, plumb the rest of the fuel system, mount the regulator, run the lines. 2, we have to do the hydro boost conversion, which means different power steering pump, just because the return line, different lines, and of course the hydro boost, which I have. We're gonna put the water pump on, accessory drive, just finalize, route the belt and stuff like that. Put the fan in, fill the cooling system, prime the oiling system, start the engine, tune it, and then, depending on how many weeks that takes, hit the racetrack, because I really want to get this 8.1 back to the track and see how fast it can go. So that's kind of where we're at as far as UglyTruck progress. A couple other updates on this future new project truck that shoot, I wasn't supposed to say truck, but future project that we're planning. There you go, there's a little giveaway. We found the unfindable, impossible to find, whatever you want to call it. We found it, guys. This right here, this is a cast iron front differential that fits a Chevy S10. So it's like 7.6 inch ring gear, I think. Now normally these are fairly weak, but this cast iron one, these are extremely tough. And I don't know if I've shown you guys that underneath the L8T, but that's a Bravada front differential from the same sort of application, except that little axle shaft is different. We will talk a lot about that in the future. I'm trying to find a motor for this mystery project. What do you think I should put in it? Anyway, another conversation for another time. Thank you guys for watching. That brings this video to an end. Wish I would have got more done, but hey, at least we got a good looking engine to look at.